Hello, teacher. Jacqueline speaking. Thank you for joining us again. In our final project, the story that we are going to talk about this time is the Confession of Charles Linkwood. It begins with the story of a crime and how his author, Charles Linkwood, was sentenced to death by hanging. But let's go ahead and take a look at the story. Charles' mother was not an easygoing person. It was not hard to swallow that their relationship was not the best. Charles was digging around his mother's money. He just couldn't stand her while thinking about the money. He was more or less like a gold digger, but without the romantic part. One day, he had a discussion with his mother while his wife was out of the town, and Charles took advantage of the situation and killed his mother. He buried her in his backyard, and before his wife got back, he packed up all his mother's possessions and took them to the station. He also saw them dispatched to town, to London. One step at a time, he played an alibi. He called some friends to get together and told them that his mother had moved to London and she had no left trace of her new home. The story has a logical sense, so nobody has doubts about it. No one suspects that the old woman was kicked the bucket. He told the same story to his wife. Everything was fine. Charles had paid some debts, saved another bit of money, and he had acted sensibly until he started to deposit too much money in the bank. But that was not the biggest of his problem. It turned out that the luggage has been burned in an accident at the post office, and they had written to Charles to offer a monetary compensation. Because Charles did not have an explanation how the suitcase has still at the train station, he had to leave the case of the alleged disappearance of his mother to the police. Check out the case carefully. The investigators looked out Smith Street, visited some banks, observed the supposed increase in trade, and from a house nearby, looked into the garden where firms were already flourishing. On the record, chaplain who had attended him had done his greatest effort to get him to confess, but he couldn't, and to the last he asserted, though without protestation, his innocence. Charles' death triggers a series of unexpected events. First, Dr. Tisdale felt a strange presence around him, and then the rope with which the murderer had paid for his crime has disappeared.
The doctor considered that most of the crimes was the result of some abnormality. Doctor wished that Charles endorsed the verdict himself. That night he dined alone, and once almost it went back to think the sensation he had experienced that morning with the spirit of Linkworth. When he was a student, he used to study the occult, and he knew the boundary of separation between soul and body. He called it a day. When he received a phone call, he got up and took the telephone, and he heard a whisper, but he couldn't hear anything else. He wanted to know what had happened with that phone call, and he realized that someone had called him from jail, but the warder Dracot said no. So he hid the sack. The next day he went to the jail, and he felt the spirit of Charles Linkworth. He was sure it was not his imagination, because he saw a figure on the top step of the gallows. It was stiff and hooded. He was very nervous, but immediately had an idea. He called Draycott and talked with him about some disturbance in the prison last night, and Draycott said yes. In that moment, Dr. Tisdale realized that the spirit wanted to communicate with him, so he cancelled an engagement he had for dinner and waited for the call. When he received the call, his own voice trembled, and he said, "I am Dr. Tisdale. What can I do for you? And who are you?" And the spirit said, "I want to tell, sir. I want to tell. I must tell. Charles Linkworth wanted to talk with the chaplain because he wanted to leave the prison, but he had to confess his sin. He said, 'I shan't be so miserable when I have told.'"
Immediately, Dr. Tisley got in contact with Dawkins. He asked him to meet and show the importance of the reunion. He confessed that something extranormal was taking place. Tisley was in a pickle and tried to meet Dawkins. He knew that it was the only way to Shirley's could be free. Then, when Tisley was with Tompkins trying to explain the difficult situation that was facing, he told that Shirley's, the same man who was executed, wanted the opportunity to tell the truth. That was the way he wanted to be forgotten. Tisley explained that he called him by the phone from the prison. Dawkins was getting confused and angry, but Taylor did not stop talking. Dawkins asked for a proof. Taylor received the call from Charles and Dawkins was not able to believe, though, that it was a prank or joke. Finally, Taylor tried to figure out how to make Charles confess. In that moment, the shape of Charles appeared in the middle of them. Jenkins was in a boiling of nerves. Charles disappeared, letting the rope on the floor. Jenkins took his proof. Charles took the chain to explain himself. Charles was acquitted. They tried to pick up the rope, but only Tisley and Dawkins were able to see it.